Hello, Nathan. Hi, how are you?
Hey, Mustafa, thank you for having me. I'm really good, thanks. Lovely sunny day here in Switzerland, and looking forward to having this chat.
It's pleasure to have you, and thanks for accepting our invite for Let's Talk About Data. As we were just discussing that we do talk about only data and AI on these podcasts, and lovely to have people like you who can really share their experiences on data and AI implementation across the world. And as part of this podcast, I end up interviewing people around 30 plus countries. So it will be lovely to hear your experiences and how it goes. So Nathan, as this is your first appearance on our podcast, our audience want to know about you. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm like a lifelong data guy. Probably 28 years in the industry. I've right now I run like a startup around data where we're trying to basically help make creating the data backbone for companies way more efficient than previously, so you can get clean data to your functional areas and your AI. But my background really is in consulting. I spent nearly 19 years at Deloitte, where I did some really large data-driven transformations. And I really saw there the what worked in terms of data transformations and what didn't. So it's quite interesting to see that. And I think that's probably influencing some of the discussion points about what we'd like to talk about today as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, awesome, awesome. So without further ado, we talked about our topic today, and which is very near to my heart. And I have been advocating. I end up writing a book on it. In fact, end up creating a framework for this role, and and end up writing a book on it. So I've done a lot of study on it, and I think that is one of my career path as well as a data
Mhm.
guy. So our topic is the CDO role is dead, right? It's an amazing topic. So first you tell us why you selected this topic. How come you have reached to that edge where you don't like CDOs?
So, but if you look at the data in general has um, let's say a perception of value delivery as a problem, right? The so many like newspaper articles, so many web articles, so many statements like data investments don't deliver return on investment, right? It's like so many stories of like we invested so much in data and we didn't get anything back. We put all our money into a data platform. Um, our data team keeps asking for more and more each year, and so on and so on. And
Mhm.
this is pretty much a common theme around the industry. What I've seen, and this is my statement of okay, the CDO role is dead. If you look at the typical CDO role at the moment, you've got it's almost it's detached from the business, right? The CDO is a almost nearly always a different organization with its own budget and its own way of doing things, that is then trying to find almost customers in the business who can it can do work for. And in this role, it's got a combination of data engineering, data governance, analytics. Now AI is coming into the mix, machine learning, whatever. It's got the classic requests for data and what have you. The data is not a service desk cool topic that comes up again and again. And I think okay, my observation of the industry and from what I've seen is this role has just become too big or too wide for any one person organization to really be able to do. So I think if you look at taking the other side, if you look at where you see value coming out of data, right? It's when deep you've got deep specialists embedded in marketing functions who are really getting into like what it getting into attribution, getting into who's really going to be the next the next sale, what's the next best action, who's going to be the how are we going to deal with this particular customer, those types of things. Or it's super strong super strong people in finance, in financial performance and financial planning and analysis, the FP&A function. Or it's demand planning, or it's risk analytics, or it's pricing analytics, or it's inventory optimization. All these things are, you get these real business, it's business first, backed by data, as opposed to data first, which is enabling the business. And that's why I think the CDO role, when it's trying to do, let's say, analytics for everyone, because you see this again and again, they're outside of the business. There's an agency problem in that they're always trying to influence someone who has a different budget and has a different goal and has a different need, and they struggle with that, right? They struggle again and again. So I think that's basically the story of the thesis. Now I'm not saying at all that data isn't important, right? But the data, the way the CDO role has evolved over the last, I'm going to actually name it here. Over the last 8 years since 2017, it's really interesting. The reason I name 8 years since 2018 is that was when Tom Davenport put out the whole offense and defense thing as a comment on the data function. And I just think a lot of people have gone too big into the offense side in a way that they're not really able to achieve, and the expectations gone way over there. Whereas it's if I think what we're going to see going forward is really focusing on enabling the business to do the analytics themselves, making sure they've got a clean, what I'd call a clean data backbone, everything from front all the way through to data products or what have you, with good governance in a way that works, and maybe a little bit of enablement if it's really needed. So that's basically
Yeah.
my thesis here.
No, that's perfect, and that's very much elaborated. Like, let me try to throw few things in favor of CDO role. I think let's convert this discussion into a kind of, I would say, debate. Let
Yeah,
me
of course. Yeah,
try.
yeah,
Yeah,
happy to.
I think it will be great because you think CDO role is dead. You have your own reasons. I also feel the kind of CDO should do the role that they are not doing it, and that is the reason. Yes, you are right. It's kind of a dead. When you say dead, it means what is supposed to do it is not doing that. So I
Mhm.
think my first reason is CDO has become, we all know data has become the IT department. It should not be the IT department. And I think CDOs has also become running data as an backend IT. So that is one argument I can put up, that CDO should not run data as a IT department. And as you mentioned, that it should be run by business. And I absolutely agree with you that data strategy should be part of business strategy rather than a separate silo. So what do
Mhm.
you think about this point? If CDO comes out of IT and become the part of business strategy?
So I think this is where the CDO has become the data and analytics guy, right? Data and analytics are different things.
Yeah, I have a comment on this one. First, you complete. Yeah, I agree on
Um,
that as well. Yeah.
and I think that's so. I think you've got really three roles here, right? Three big ones. You've got let's say, the analytics, who I think we're probably agreeing that it's nearly always best if they're as embedded in the business and ideally paid for and
Yeah.
totally supported by the business, because that's where value comes from. Whether that's marketing, FP&A, whatever. Um, you've then got two other functions, which are the under one or not, that are all about making sure that all those analysts and all the business processes and the because it's not just analysts, it's actually operational data. Data is an operational thing first and foremost before it becomes an analytical topic. That all the analytical and operational cases across the business have that clean data as it's the data as an asset thing that we need, and that comes in two parts. Right, one is the let's say the data pipelines, which frankly is an IT job, right? It's IT's job to make sure that data moves from system to system to system, or from layer to layer, or from interface to interface without anything breaking. That's I can't see anything other than that being an IT job. Now, then there's how do you operationalize analytics and that sort of stuff? That's one of those things. The other part of that is the definition and agreement of meaning, which what often gets called data governance, but the term data governance has its own issues, which end up with people going down the whole rabbit hole of data owners and data stewards and policies and all that sort of stuff that really loses the business. Yes, they're important and they're needed, but they without a business outcome focus, then some of that gets really lost. There's ways around it, and we can talk about those later as well. But I think there's those three bits,
Mhm.
and I think I can't see an organization structure where, let's say, the budgets for all those three bits lie in the same place, because pipelines, right? Pipeline storage, interfaces, even running production models, that's an IT job. Defining what metrics, what data, what's included, what's defined. That's a part of the business and part of the or it's different parts of the business role. So you could reduce back the CDO role to probably what it was originally, which was in the sort of the banks of the early 2010s, that it was pretty much a data governance role. And then you got analytics, and analytics. I think you're also seeing a move from there's certain custom stuff needed, but there's also a move towards more operationalization of off-the-shelf products in the analytics space, which makes it a bit more accessible to get analytics into, like, business specialist sounds.
Actually, you are right. If, as I mentioned, that I've come up with 4x4 formula framework, actually. In that framework, I'm exactly telling the same three things, but I've divided that into two pieces. Uh, so as you mentioned, first thing is data management, which is pipeline, blah, 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 blah. Second one is governance. For me, is nothing more than we all know that governance start with the regulatory bodies. Whatever their regulations, policies are, someone has to fulfill that, right? And it has more meaning as well. But for me, these two pieces are supporting pieces. The third one, as you mentioned, the analytics, the use cases, right? That is where I agree with you. I think that is where the conflict normally comes when CDO role or data team role try to overcome business. And that
Mhm.
is where I don't see that data or CDO or data team should do that, because business is business.
Yeah.
It's a day in and out job for business. You will never be able to beat business in use cases definitions, right? Defining use cases and blah, blah, blah. So I feel that at that point in time, the third pillar, as you're mentioning, CDO or data team should support business in a way,
Mhm.
whatever they want to do it. So I've categorized into few pieces, right? Whatever they want to do it, either they do not know that, or either they don't even know the use cases, right? When you say business do not know the use cases, normally technical use cases they do not know. Like Gen AI has come here, Agentic AI has come here. So these technologies are changing so fast, business do not know. But when you talk about business use case, you can't beat business. So that is where I ask CDO and data teams to support it rather than going on top of it. I think that is one of the another big reason why business don't like data practices, because
Yeah,
data practices comes and they say, hey, why not implement this use case? Let's say if in churn, churn
yeah.
use customers, and business sitting into the boardroom and they, who the hell are you? I'm the business. I should be running the correct.
Well, yeah, it's they've got they're the budget holders, right? They're the target
Yeah.
holders. They're the plan holders. They've got um, let's say a customer success team has
Yeah.
a target to reduce churn, right? So they're going to be reducing churn. Now, ideally, they're being data driven on that. So they're looking at potential options that they can different segments, different what have you that they can use to be data driven. Have they got the data? Have they got the right data in a clean, uh, systematized fashion to do that? That's probably that's where the provision of the data um, via IT, via data governance comes in, right? To make sure they've that the data is then clean and accessible, and you're not and they can actually do something with it, or whether that data is going to a third-party app that they want to use. Fine, move it into you can. There's so many software as a service things that do specific analytic use cases these days. Then I think you're going to see like why custom build things when you can buy off the shelf.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. But if I put an angle from here off the shelf, right? I'm a big fan of the shelf solutions, but normally in past we have learned the moment you go towards off the shelf, there is so much of customization into it that essence of the product is lost, right? Because normally big companies, let's name it like Oracle, IBM, SAP, their
Mhm.
products are generic products. The moment you go and start implementing it, it itself become 2 years project, right? So that is where I feel when we go into
Yeah,
analytics.
but okay. What are you talking about there? Right. So I think there's if you go, let's say, big ERP thing,
Hmm.
then frankly, an ERP transformation. I'm not talking about ERP transformation is first of all a business process transformation backed up with technology. The you don't change you don't change your ERP without sort of streamlining your processes. I think that's you've got to be able to do that in order to do that. In a interesting point, actually, when you're changing your processes, is the best time to embed data governance into those processes. By the way, because that's when when you're transforming your when you're doing business with process reengineering, you can really get the data governance and data quality elements into the point. So that's a bit of an aside, but that's a really key element on that. But I'm thinking a little bit more on the, let's say, the smaller scale stuff. So if you're looking at uh, attribution and things like that in marketing, then do you need to build all that yourself, or do you buy Supermetrics, right? Or do you buy polars? Not polars, polar analytics or triple whale or something like that. So do, you can easily spend a silly amount of money on building all that your stuff in your own data team, or you can get um, a good, maybe not perfect, but good view of that yourself. Um, Same if you're looking at demand planning. If you're looking at inventory management, I can't remember off the top of my head all the names of these things, but there's individual apps that'll do like one thing very well in order to support that. But in order to do that, you need to feed these things with your data and make sure that you've got a clean set of data going into that into those apps. So that's probably that I'm just it's everything, nearly everything in technology, everything in as it evolves, it starts off new, it goes through some sort of stage where you can only do it custom built, then it moves into more of a product or service view of the world. There's standard ways of doing things, so ERPs are there now, right? And then things move into more the commodities. So you think of computing at one point it was all make up for the first time. Now it's Now you just turn it on, turn it off as a commodity, like you do a tap with a cloud. So over the period of time, that evolution has really it's happening, and I think we're in the middle of this with a lot of the data stuff now. Um, a lot of the evolution is from custom building a lot of these applications yourself to buying things off the shelf, and that's part of this whole sort of trend I think we're seeing across the data industry.
Yeah, actually, if I talk about OLTP and OLAP system, normally application which is OLTP, I'm still fine out of the box. When we talk about OLAP, that is where my challenge comes in. Because the moment you buy out of the box OLAP solutions like Oracle financial system or maybe Teradata FSLDM, all those things, the biggest challenge comes that if you are not a data savvy guy, you won't even know how those pre-built pipelines has been built. And once you start doing a mapping with source system into this pre-built, let's say data warehouse, these mappings always give you a challenge. And let's say those mappings are done. Now the whole pipeline runs. Now any bug comes, who will go and fix that bugs? So until unless you don't have data people, so I'm again a big fan of those out of the box data models. But the challenge which I see around is there isn't enough data folks there within the organization who can really run that piece. What do you think about that?
Um, I don't really look at this. Well, I look at this first of all from a are we getting the business outcomes we want perspective. Right?
Mm-mm-mm.
That's the so you buy something because um, you expect that it will reduce the time to value, and it's going to be good enough. But you don't. Okay, if you want it to be perfect, you're going to build something yourself, right? You trade off um, you
Yeah.
trade off time and money
TTM, time
for
to market. Yeah.
perfection in
Correct.
that element. So,
Correct.
but also you've got to point that are you perfect, or is it better to learn from what be as good as in some there here it depends. What is your secret sauce as a business?
Hmm.
If it's your secret sauce, you need to build it yourself, right? Um, um, there was a story about like I think it was Lidl's SAP implementation. This is not a data thing. It was this is a business process issue, but like Lidl's secret sauce was the way they managed their inventory, and SAP came in and said they went and implemented it, but they couldn't do inventory management in the same way Lidl did it. So they spent billions and or millions, millions, and millions, and the whole thing was a disaster because the secret sauce needed to be something, um, but it wasn't, right? So if you depend on something for your thing, then absolutely you've got to build it yourself. If it's just part of your business, and then the question is who's innovating fastest? Is it you and your corporate, or is it some startup? I can feed with data that we trust, and then they're going to do something for us, and then if we if we're strong enough on our data backbone within our organization that we really trust it, then okay, it's easy enough to split between, let's say, Supermetrics and Polar Analytics, because we're going to feed it with the same data and we can see the same results. So, I hear what you're saying about especially the big ugly oracles, right? Um, I'm probably think in my mind I'm thinking of the more nimble startup type apps that are coming on the market rather than the big oracles. Because on the big oracle world, you're probably going to change all your processes and pipelines and everything in order to fit what Oracle are going to need, because that's what going through an Oracle transformation, whether it's Oracle Financials, whether it's the Oracle Cloud, that's what that needs. So yeah, I think there's different
Yeah.
levels of that, but still, I think you still need to be able to. you still need to be able to feed that with a common set of data. That's one thing we did at one of the big transformations in my previous life was private equity thing. Had to transform in order to do the private equity turnaround, right? But we ended up building one common data flow that served planning, served demand forecasting, served procurement, order to cash. What else was that? Daily reporting, financial accounting, the whole thing from one pipeline or one set of pipelines. So everything was aligned. So once you've got that, then they can really create, let's say, proper data products on the that's trusted that feed into these analytic tools on the front end. So I think that's where these things fit. Now, yeah, if you get into an old school Oracle where you've got to feed everything through the data warehouse or their data warehouse itself, yeah, you're getting into a whole bit of mess. But if you're feeding into a black box that's managed by some SaaS provider, then just you've got to make sure that you feed the data correctly.
Yeah, so bringing back our topic like CDO role is that how you map those. So all these discussion which we are doing, right, that we need to have a out of the box solutions which can really fit your business requirement. Yeah, customization will be there, but as small companies, startups are coming with the very niche product, it's better to use it. So how do you see that CDO current JD of CDO is not required for these kind of implementation? Are you saying that, or you are saying that as it is all
Yeah,
out
I,
of the
I
box?
don't think the current job description of the CDO is the current job description of a CDO is typically a build first
Yeah.
thing, right?
What about
That's
yeah,
it's a build. It's buy isn't often on the radar because buy is someone else's responsibility. So okay, obviously you're going to buy so you're going to buy certain tech, obviously, but to buy a solution that does something end to end, I think is off the. It's not new. It's not really a CDO way of doing things. People hire CDOs for, do you know, Databricks and Snowflake and all these and DBT and all this sort of stuff when they shouldn't. They should think, okay, do you know how to make an enterprise successful with data and go from there. So yeah, so I think that's where someone needs to manage the enterprise data asset.
yeah.
Right? That's a no-brainer. Is that the current CDO role? I don't know. Is
What
it?
about future? No, you're saying current.
No,
I agree on that.
no.
That
Is it the future? Is it the current CDO job description taken 2 years forward? I don't think so. Right? I
yeah.
think maybe I think the role is almost like there's a very powerful role in finance, normally called the financial controller. Right? The financial controller is basically the person who makes sure that numbers that go to the street are right. They report to the CFO, but they're all about the financial numbers that run the business. Um, I think there's another role in the future for the rest of the data that's not financial,
Okay.
because that financial data is very limited, right?
Very niche.
It's basically limited to
Yeah.
what goes through the P&L and the balance sheet. There's probably a bit more to it than that, but that's really about it. But there's an awful lot more data that's in the organization. So I think that there's a role that should evolve that comes in that direction. Now, where does that report? I don't know. I probably think it starts off reporting into finance just because the CFO is used to managing the quality of numbers. But it might report into IT. I don't think it doesn't, it's definitely not something that reports into the CEO. It shouldn't report into marketing. It shouldn't report into, let's say, chief revenue officer or supply chain. So it's like finance is probably the only place that isn't IT that it could sensibly report into. But that's I'm not 100% on that. I think that's where the role is going in terms of in terms of, let's say, the controller for the rest of the data. But I don't know exactly off the top of my head where it goes yet.
No, no, which is fine. I can throw a different question as well, right? That as you correctly mentioned, that current CDOs are building from scratch, right? And they were building, I think the failure of CDO was they were building from bottom to top, where they end up
Mhm.
creating the whole warehouse or data lake house. And they say, hey, then let's build the whole thing and then let's go and find the use cases.
Yeah.
I think that's not going to work. That hasn't worked.
Yeah.
I think the other way is top to bottom. By the way, this is suppose warehouse supposed to be built in such a way that it
Mhm.
is top to bottom, but somehow it become an IT. So, but with the introduction of, let me bring agentic AI as well and federated approach, where everything will be expected to build based on the business requirement, top to bottom. Agentic AI promises that it will end up creating a small data product, but
Mhm.
very focused on the business requirement. So
Mhm.
my question then comes, if we remove CDO role from here, and now agentic AI comes and start creating products. So and product, when we say product, it's all data products. I'm only
Mhm.
focused on data and AI, right? Now, if agentic AI autonomously start creating products, so who will be that guy? Will make sure transparency is there, lineage is there, governance is there, regulatory things are there, because things are being created by a robot. Someone
Mhm.
need to there to understand that, right?
Yeah. And that's why this, let's say, this data controller thing probably becomes even more important.
Data controller, okay. Okay.
Let's say that's my equivalent of the financial controller being the data controller, right? That's
Okay.
just someone like that becomes even more important, because it does become a very difficult job, right? Until it's so clearly this hasn't been fully thought through, and I'm happy to just put this out there for discussion. But it becomes you've got to you've got to enable and control at the same time.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Um, you've got to live with the reality of um, like all the multiple systems, best of breed, best of breed approaches, decomposed ERPs, which is another big trend, which is running at the same time. Obviously, agents doing whatever. Now, who buys an agent, right? Is it? It's probably going to be bought in the business, right? So like you're going to need is that are you using an agent or are you using a SaaS to do something? Are you using a SaaS with an agent? Are you getting your agent to talk to another SaaS? Are you moving data around between different things? How does that to get data get back into the central asset? Are all questions I think that we need to be able to answer in order to like make sure that they were able to manage the agentic data product decomposed.
Yeah. So we have a time check of 10-15 minutes. I think
Yeah.
let's jump onto this as well, right? A topic which we have been discussing, right? You're saying that it should be managed by business itself. Let me like business should take all the calls and all those they should build their own teams. I have a conflict here actually. I have a different thought process. Let me give you an example.
I
Let's
didn't. By
say,
the way, I didn't say all, but I think I
yeah,
said analytics should
yeah,
be in the
analytics.
business. Right? That's
Analytics.
not necessarily data, because there's a central asset that needs to be managed.
Yeah, yeah, so
Um,
I agree.
yeah.
OLTP is central thing that I don't
No.
talk.
Uh, data is an asset, right?
Yeah,
It's a part. It's something that needs to be um, leveraged across the business. All your sales orders, all your purchase orders, they can be used by anyone in multiple ways. So
uh,
that's I think that data is sourced from somewhere. That's obviously, but I've got 20 different OLTPs, all creating sales orders. Those sales orders are then being created into one nice flow that then anyone else can use in
Yeah,
a as long as they're authenticated user. Right? So that's I think the movement of that type of stuff is an IT job, right?
absolutely.
It can only be IT who moves data from one system into another system, um, applies the rules at the right time that's guided by the business, and then moves that forward. That has to be IT. Um, who defines what the rules are, what you can do?
This
I
is
think that's the legacy of whatever chief, the legacy of the data governance chief data office, whatever that we have, and then we get into analytics.
so at that point in time, that situation, I agree with you. So I normally categorize data into two pieces. One is where data is generated, the other where is data served. When it is generated, like OLTP application, which I always say, so I don't touch base that because that's a smooth business, smooth operations. I don't talk about that.
Okay,
I
I
talk,
do.
uh, uh,
Okay,
no,
right. And
which
this
I
is
agree,
a
which I
yeah.
agree.
So I think you have to if you're a data owner, if you have to own the data in the OLTP.
Both places. I agree on that.
You have to own it in the OLTP because that's where
Yeah.
because data fundamentally is an operational, like I said earlier, it's an operational task. Then it's analytical as opposed to being just an analytical thing.
No, no, which is
Yeah.
fine.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, no, which is fine. See, why I normally segregate both is because OLTP application is someone which absorbs data, which generates data, right? It has
Mhm.
its own practices. When I talk about OLAP system where data is served, that is where value comes out of data because you pull up from OLTP and then you massage it, then you transform it, then you do analytics on top of it, right? That is where I think conflict comes. OLTP side, nobody conflicts nowadays. It has to be, I agree with you, it has to be out of the box. People have best practices over TP applications. You don't need to create scratch. I am 100% with you. But the moment it comes into the OLAP world, where you are serving, I think that is where the whole CDO role challenges start coming in. Not in OLTP world, in OLAP world. I think that is where when I talk about use cases, like churn use case, I gave you an example.
Mhm.
You go and tell business, hey, business, I can do a super good use case for you. Business will say, who the hell are you? But having said that, right? Business says, hey, I want to drive my use case. Now, let me put that example, which I was about to say that. Let's take an example of sports car and a
Mhm.
driver. Like Michael Schumacher was an awesome driver. He can drive super good car. He knows the engine, everything he knows about the car. But he still need a peer with him who can really design and create the best car out of it. Yes, this driver knows that, but you need someone who really can do it for you. I think, and someone who can do it for you, that need to know this person, what this person want. That is when I say what this person want, that is a business. When business says I need this, then he need, I think, CDO. Again, I'm talking about OLAP application, not OLTP. He need a CDO guy, or you can call it someone else, but I call it CDO, who understands how to create an engine, who understand how what shafts are, what pistons are, who in certain level of combination car will move faster because driver will say I need a car on certain track where drifting should be there and should not be there. Driver can say up to that level, but it will be an engineer who will design that. That is where I
Mhm.
feel a CDO role should embed under business strategy, should always do what business says rather than build from bottom to top. It should always talk to business. What do you think if CDO switch its role into this direction?
Um, well, so
Maybe I made it more
does
complicated for you.
I'm just talking. I'm just flicking through in my mind Adrian Newey's book, about how to build a car. It's a great book if you haven't read it. It's the guy who designed the Red Bulls.
Okay.
It's really really good book. The no, so what I was thinking. So I think first of all, I think let's say there's okay, there's data as an asset, right?
Yeah.
Which for me, at least, takes into consideration your OLTP and your lab systems, right?
Hmm.
Because that's the first thing. And the second thing is um, basically pipelines processing, and interfaces, right? Interfaces in, interfaces out, pipelines, matching data, making sure the rules apply, all that sort of stuff. Now, yes, someone has to manage all those, especially when this the agentic data product, the world, none of that has anything to do with who's doing analytics, right? So, is like this sounds like we're probably designing a chief data architect role, um, which is someone who understands enough of the organization to be able to do this. Which where does that sit? That probably sits in enterprise architecture, right? In a corporate. Again, then you're reporting into IT, unless enterprise architecture sits in somewhere else. So that's where I think your thing is going. I would always make sure that there's a focus on data as a whole in OLTP plus OLAP. The reason being, while, like you say, data can't necessarily add value in a OLTP, it can certainly lose value.
Yeah.
So, especially where you've got data quality issues, that cause data quality issues that cause supply problems, or delivery problems, or customer service problems, and all that sort of stuff. You've heard probably of the data quality 110-100 rule, where if it costs $1 to get it right first time, it costs $10 to fix it in that system, and then $100 to fix it in all the systems that are impacted. Um, I often add the thousand of on the thousand element of that, which is it actually costs that data quality problem is maybe causing you £1,000 worth of business decisions made badly. Right?
Yeah.
So the original research on that was the 110, 100. But so and that's why I always come back to the point about data is everything from the start to the finish, and also why it's really useful to have that sort of business process transformation leading to data transformation. So I think that's so yeah, that then the question about who is helping the business through their journey on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that the evolution of the chief data officer role? Probably. Is it someone who's a bit more? Is it someone who's as build focused as the CDO? Probably not.
Let
Um,
me add here one more thing, very key. You can
oh,
continue on that. Unfortunately, the current CDO roles, 90% which I have seen across the globe is non-data background people jump into CDO role
mhm,
and they become CA role, Chief Analytical
yeah,
Officer becomes CDO as well. And
yeah,
mostly 90% they talk about business use cases,
yeah,
not how to implement the data pipe. I
yeah,
think that is where the conflict comes. So
yeah,
I do CDO role going into that direction, which you just mentioned, but changing the JD, I would say.
yeah. Because I think, and I think the analytics officer sitting outside the business function, I think we probably agreed that's not working, right? It's like
It has to be business.
there's one time it can happen is when you're um, as like an innovation or incubator, um, where an organization has wants it but hasn't got it, but needs to hire the people and skills. So you incubate it, you help people do something, you incubate it for up until about 5-10 people, and then you move the cost to the business, right? But that's I think probably that's probably about it in terms of where I think this could really should be going.
Yeah, so we have a time check again, 8 minutes,
Mm,
right? So I think it was a great
it's
discussion. Like
flown.
how you want to, yeah, time went like this, right? So you want to conclude this in such a way that do you still think that if we can change the JD of CDO in such a way that it should be tightly bundled with the business strategy rather than building its own practice, do you see that change of role? Then it makes sense to have a CDO?
I don't think that the current job description of the CDO has 3 years left, maybe
Yeah.
2 years. But um, I think that's where I think there's the trend in general is toward the trend in general for on it is towards being able to buy things more than being able to yeah, being able to buy things rather than necessarily building everything. There's the trend towards agentic AI, which is it's not there yet. It's very still at peak of peak what's it of high expectations or whatever Gartner says. There's the other trend which I think we really need to be aware of, and which is the ERP or decomposed ERP world, right? Which again needs this strong data backbone that allows you to plug and play multiple OLTP and other systems and analytical systems into one set of a data asset. And that data backbone is really going to be the most important thing that an organization needs going forward. And who owns this data backbone uh, is a combination of IT architecture, IT engineering, and business business definitions and definitions and rules and policies, which effectively is data governance. But I don't want to say that because that'll give the data governance people too much of a thing.
Yeah.
I
So
will end up back doing data owners and starting with data owners and data stewards and all that sort of
yeah,
stuff.
actually, that is also an irony where, because when I see a lot of data governance practices, again, 90% of data governance people are IT people. They are
Yeah,
not data people.
yeah.
So within
But
data,
I loved your interview with Joao last week, right? The like you listen to someone like Joao, he's got it, right? And really gets the business angle of it. And good data governance people um, really the good data governance people really look at the outputs. They
yeah.
look at the outcomes that you can achieve, and I get that. No,
But
so
the
yeah, just going back onto
governance
it.
people don't look into the output. Now that's a challenge.
That's the challenge. Yeah, they look at the processes, right? They look
Yes.
at the
Yes.
processes and the roles and the organization structure, but not necessarily like okay, good ones will, right? You obviously there's the challenge is that it's easier to go into processes. But
Then are we saying
um,
that we are changing JD of the CDO, then we need to change the JD of data governance as well?
well, that goes without saying.
I was so direct. You were not direct. Okay, I think it was a great session, Nathan, and pleasure to have you. And it's always great to talk to people who are really data background people who can really challenge me as well. It's always pleasure to talk to someone who is from a data background and who do not agree with your concepts. I think that is where the good flavor comes in. I'm a big
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of CDO, by the way. I'm not a big fan of what CDO right now doing. I'm
yeah,
absolutely against what CDO currently doing,
yeah.
but I am absolutely in a favor that CDO role need to be there with the people who have a data background. And furthermore, I believe CDO need to sit into the board as well. That's what I believe, because they
Hmm.
are the one who are managing everything. Because 90% of requirement come from top, but when it goes down, nobody knows how to implement it. Just a closing remark from you.
Yeah. I'm not sure I'm not sure I agree with all those points. I think there's I believe there's a slightly different evolution of what goes on from here.
Which is fine, which is fine. We welcome all kind of inputs and feedback. Thank you, Nathan. Pleasure. I
Welcome.
hope this should not be our last session. I will catch you in couple of quarters.
Mhm.
And then we talk about new things coming into the market and we learn from you. Thank you so much.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you.
Pleasure. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
And you too. Later.